I have a question for you. Have you heard of Jank? If so, you know what you're in for, and I hope you enjoyed this recount of these events. If you haven't heard of Jank, stop what you're doing right now, close every tab, and lock into this video. Albeit tragic, the tale of Jank's demise is highly engaging. It forces you to ask yourself questions like why you support the artists you support, and whether or not you believe art is inherently tied to its creator. Jank had a lightning in a bottle feeling to them, as if they weren't meant to get popular, but found relative stardom by creating sounds so enthralling people couldn't ignore them. They didn't reinvent every genre they dipped their head into, rather approached each genre with their own unique vision. They were popular in the emo community, but didn't make you cry. They played fast mathy riffs that clearly took a lot of time and practice, yet didn't take themselves seriously. Jank was the closest you could get to being a joke band without being a joke band. Jank created songs so catchy, fun, and energetic, it would be hard to remove their melodies from your mind, even if you forcibly tried. One listen to their song Versace Summer, and the hook will remain in you for life. But there's bad news. Jank is no longer with us. As fast as they appeared, they vanished. But why? Why would a beloved, fast-growing band like Jank torch their career after only 2 years? Jank's breakup was tragic for many reasons. Not only did it impact the lives of those involved, but stirred up mass controversy within the scene. It also killed a band that had the potential to be a light within the community. Today I'm going to tell you the story of Jank, and discuss the events surrounding the Lou Diamond allegations. Lou Diamond, formerly known as Matt Diamond, started Jank in spring 2015. But before we dive into Jank, we have to go back a few years before they formed, because Jank wasn't Lou's first band.
My music is very blunt. It doesn't have a lot of very deep, metaphorical content. It's very coarse, it's very rough, and it's very in your face. I like writing that way because it doesn't cut corners. It just goes straight for it. It's less of a music project and more of a journey to just figure myself out, and then the music is just kind of an accessory to that.
Lou's first taste of success occurred in October 2013 with the release of Panucci's Pizza's debut album, Don't Tip the Delivery Boy. Panucci's Pizza was one of 2 projects Lou was involved with before Jank, the other being Little Tyrant, but we're going to look at Panucci's first. Brock Benzel and Lou Diamond began creating music as a duo under the name Panucci's Pizza circa 2013. They hailed from Downingtown, Pennsylvania, a small town 30 miles west of Philadelphia. Brock and Lou knew each other for 5 years prior to starting Panucci's Pizza. They met at School of Rock, a local music program in their neighborhood. One day, Lou called up Brock and asked him about starting a band. Brock said yes, and Panucci's Pizza was born. Panucci's Pizza had a minimalist, lo-fi raw sound paired with almost uncomfortably honest lyrics. Lou had this to say on one of their most popular tracks. The only girls who give me the time of day are far too young to realize the horrible mistake that they've made. I'm the horrible mistake they've made. It's important to remember that these words can mean anything, but at minimum they make you do a double take. They make you ask yourself, what compels a person to put those types of words out there, and what do they want the audience to get from it? Brock and Lou released tons of music during their run. They have 3 full lengths, one of which being a compilation of nearly every song they've ever made, over 2 hours long. They played their last show on August 30th, 2015 in Cincinnati, Ohio. In the live video, it appears as if they've been on tour and it's their last stop, or they're stopping abruptly after that show because they're breaking up. It's confusing.
This is our first and last and only time in Cincinnati, Ohio, because we're breaking the fuck up. Sorry with that one guy.
But an obscure article from June 2014 clears things up. When asked about releasing an LP, Lou had this to say. We'll be putting Panucci's Pizza on hold once summer ends. Brock will be attending Berkeley and myself UArts in Philadelphia in the fall, so our plan for now is to play as much music as possible and release as much music as possible before the summer ends. Brock followed up with, but this is by no means the end of Panucci's Pizza. Whenever I'm on breaks from school or back in town, we will try to set up some shows. So it would make sense that Panucci's end had nothing to do with the allegations surrounding Lou. After reading that article, that sounds reasonable, since the band was supposed to be put on hold that next summer anyway. But I try to acknowledge both sides of the coin, so let's look at the sequence of events I found interesting. During Panucci's heyday, Lou also had a project called Little Tyrant, in which they made genderqueer tunes for genderqueer goons from 2014 to 2015. Little Tyrant was sad and acoustic, it felt minimal but sincere with just guitar and vocals. In June 2015, Little Tyrant would release their self-titled album, laying the project to rest. This took place 2 months after the formation of Jank and 2 months before the breakup of Panucci's Pizza. What makes Panucci's breakup interesting is that Brock never wanted anything to do with Lou following the breakup, but in the interview, Brock said that it was by no means the end of Panucci's Pizza. You could say it was because Lou got busy with Jank and Brock had obligations at school, but to acknowledge the other side, it is possible Brock could have discovered information about Lou during their final summer run and not wanted to play with him after that. It's possible that forced Lou to focus on a new band and erase any projects tied to the accusations, attempting to get a fresh start. This would have worked out perfectly because when Panucci's Pizza ended, Jank was already an existing band. Because Lou made it clear that Jank was their new project and that Little Tyrant and Panucci's Pizza were in the past. But why? Why not just keep Panucci's Pizza on hiatus and play shows when they can make it work? However, that's just a theory, but what's not a theory is that individuals accused Lou of morally reprehensible behavior during their time in Jank.
So I can do whatever?
Yeah.
Alright.
Do what you've been doing, yeah.
I'll do what I do.
I'll let you know if you need to do something different.
I'll do what I do. Alright, do it back. Go.
Before we dive into the Jank era of Lou's career, I want to be clear. We are simply looking at what happened. The point is not to prove or disprove any claims made. The point is to get the information out there and tell the story so everyone can form their own opinion about what happened. Here's where things begin to unravel. We're now in April 2015 and we're in a dark, musty room full of young adults that smells of cannabis and malt liquor. A band called Jank is getting ready to take the stage. This will be their first show, completely unaware of the impact they're going to make. Here's how Jank formed. During Panucci's run, Lou acquainted themselves with a man named Ruben Polo. They found each other through mutual friends in the Philadelphia DIY scene. Ruben played bass and joined forces with Lou early 2015. Lou and Ruben both attended Philadelphia U of Arts, which is where they met a man named Sam Becht. Sam played the drums and also joined Jank early 2015. Unfortunately, there's little documentation about their formation in early moments except what has been deleted, but the most important thing you need to know about Jank's rise is how bizarre it was, especially within the context of emo and DIY music, because Jank spread like a disease. You know how you'll see videos of kids camping outside the Supreme store the night before? In less than a year, Jank had kids that stoked. The amount of time that elapsed between these two releases was less than 9 months. In that time period, Jank received favorable reviews from Pitchfork, had an article about them on AV Club, and had Stereogum premiere their music video for Caitlyn. Most bands in general never see that level of success, let alone a band like Jank, writing jangly, guitar-driven songs about weed and how much they love their bike. Music born from this scene typically sticks within a niche subculture of individuals and rarely travels from the world it was spawned from. But with Jank, it all brimmed over. It felt like everyone and their dog was talking about Jank. For a minute, they were champions in DIY music and could do no wrong in the eyes of many. After releasing awkward pop songs on Honest Face Records in November 2015, Jank did a few months of touring. Playing shows to their hungry fans across America strengthened their cult following in the DIY music space, greasing the wheels for their next release. Early 2016, Jank recorded an EP titled Versace Summer, but before they would release it, they would self-release a remix album called Awkward Chopped Songs on July 5th, 2016. A few weeks after, Jank unveiled Versace Summer to the world via Creep Records. It was a massive success. Everyone loved it, all was well. For a minute. In September 2016, out of nowhere, bassist Ruben Polo announced he would be leaving Jank for undisclosed reasons. During this time, Jank had tours with Modern Baseball and Sorority Noise in the works. Ruben left during what was going to be a prosperous time for the band, and all we're left to think is that his decision to leave must have been important and not taken lightly. Turns out it was, because following this, Lou made a long Facebook post regarding how they'd been accused of abuse, their take on the situation, and how it affected them and the other party. Shortly after the statement was deleted, all social media accounts were purged, tours cancelled, and Bandcamp deleted. Everything they worked for was gone. Here's where we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. There are 4 lengthy text posts we're going to look at. The first of which is a statement Lou posted on the Jank Facebook page addressing the initial controversy. Make sure to go grab a drink and a snack because even though I did my best to trim this without losing context, it's still a lot. I'll link the post in the description if you care to read it in full. Also, everything from this point on references topics like abuse, so if that makes you uncomfortable, please do not proceed. This is Lou's statement. Within the past month, rumors have started surfacing that I, Matt, am an abuser. When I first heard this, it was shocking, given that nothing like this had ever been brought up to me in the past. I finally connected it to an event that happened over a year and a half ago that up until this rumor had reached a closure. This person and I began hanging out during the second semester of my freshman year of college. We spent 2 nights together. One being just a night of drinking and cuddling. The second night we had been walking around figuring out what to do. This led to us getting undressed, and when they pointed to the condom on the top of their windowsill, I took this as initiating. I actually didn't intend on having sex due to my discomfort with it, but I was ashamed and embarrassed of that same discomfort. I did not mention it, and so, not wanting to disappoint the other person, I retrieved the condom and we had sex. The next day they messaged me saying they felt weird and confused about the whole situation. We discussed that they had felt pressured but didn't say anything because at the time they didn't think it was worth the effort to push away, and they wanted to make me happy. A month or so went by with us not talking due to the discomfort of the whole situation and me feeling guilty about causing someone anguish without realizing it. They then messaged me one day to tell me that they had found a shirt I left at their house. I responded by thanking them and apologized for not communicating sooner. They responded saying that everything was well and that it was a complicated situation. Fast forward to a year later, when this rumor began, I messaged the person asking if there was anything they wanted to talk about. Eventually they got back to me and communicated more in depth about how they felt about the situation. They said they had been too drunk to consent and that they didn't know they were drinking until they had finished their drink. I mentioned them pointing to the condom on their windowsill and that I was 100% under the impression that both parties knew that they were drinking. They said that the condom was put there by their sexual partner at the time, and they pointed to it because that was funny to them. They then said that they knew they were drinking, but got drunk faster because they were taking an SSRI, which they had told me, but I hadn't known about the implications of combining an SSRI with alcohol. Upon learning all this, I went into a series of panic attacks that led me to admitting myself to a mental health ward for a week, which is the reason for our social media silence. I understand everything that I did wrong, and my inexperience/maturity/anything else regarding the situation is not an excuse for what happened. I feel awful that this person feels hurt by me. Even when I was under the impression that we had closure, I still thought about it, and it's something I'll wrestle with for the rest of my life. While they owe me no forgiveness, all I'm able to do is move forward and continue to do my best and do right by others. I started this band with the hopes that I could help those sustaining mental illness in a positive way. It is a very real and dangerous thing that I have dealt with all my life. I am truly sorry to everyone, and I thank everyone for listening. Assuming everything in this story is true, then it is the most confusing story ever. It's impossible to tell whether or not there was any malicious intent on Lou's end, because there could have been, but there also may not have been. We're not provided with enough information or evidence to say for certain beyond a reasonable doubt. But it doesn't end there. It just gets worse. After months of silence following Jank's disbandment, Lou announced a new project they had been working on, Fail Better, Heal Faster. The project raised a lot of concern in the Philadelphia DIY scene considering Lou's past. The sincerity of the project's message was put into question, and whether or not Lou was still deserving of a platform. We have a lot to unpack with Fail Better, as this is where the story reaches its climax. Firstly, let's discuss what Fail Better is, because Lou's description of the project gets your wheels turning, especially when context is taken into account. Lou created a website for the project that explains what it is. We'll be looking at another chunk of text, so please grab a drink or a bowl of something if you know what I'm saying. Fail Better, Heal Faster is not a band. It is an independent music project not affiliated with any music and arts communities. We have no plans to play live, tour, promote, market, or otherwise profit off of this project. We will not be releasing any future material under this name. We will not be making any social media accounts, blog website updates, and we will not be taking any offers or opportunities that would give us a platform for social capital. Any claims that contradict this disclaimer should be taken as untrue. Fail Better, Heal Faster is made up of Lou Diamond and Sam Becht. Lou's pronouns are they, them, and Sam's pronouns are he, him. For the sake of accessibility, we will be putting this album on Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, and Apple Music, in which any profits that are made are to be donated to various organizations. If you do not wish to support the album but would still like to donate, we have attached links to the donation pages of the organizations we plan on donating to at the bottom of this page. Fail Better, Heal Faster is an album written from the perspective of one person. It will explore the spectrums of sensitive and relevant topics with the intention of encouraging constructive dialogues with mainstream and marginalized social groups alike. The album is also intended to be a form of therapy and an emotional outlet through artistic expression that will coincide with other forms of therapy and counseling that I'm currently utilizing. Most importantly, this album is meant to encourage those who have sustained various forms of abuse, as well as those who have abused others intentionally or unintentionally, to be able to find the strength and hope needed to move forward with their recovery, regardless of their unique circumstances. Never let anything convince you that you do not deserve to live. Your life has meaning, your life has worth, and you are capable of growing into a human being who will prove that you are better than your failures. This album is sincerely dedicated to every person who has contributed to my growth as a human being, for better or for worse. And we extend an enormous show of gratitude to everyone who helped make this project a reality, as well as anyone who has taken the time to read this statement, regardless of how it is perceived. Keep the people who believe in you close, and don't take their belief in you for granted. Fail better, heal faster, and survive. Things will get better. Lou. After reading this, it's clear why this post set off alarm bells for people, because let's consider the timeline. Jank ended as 2016 was coming to a close. Fail Better released a full 12-track album on August 31st, 2017. That's a short gap in time. The skepticism surrounding Fail Better prompted an investigation launched by Lou's biggest fan. Big thanks to user Guitar Emoji for doing all this work. We're now going to be looking at a confrontation between Lou and Guitar Emoji that took place over text. Guitar Emoji contacted Lou in hopes of shedding some light on what had been going on. As always, I will acknowledge both sides and say that yes, it is possible that all of these texts and this post could be manufactured with the intent of taking down Lou. I'm not asserting that is or isn't the case, I just like to entertain every angle. I feel that entertaining every possible scenario helps you form a stronger conclusion about what you think happened. So as Lou's biggest fan, Guitar Emoji contacts Lou in search of closure, as they've heard things about Lou and want to know if they're true. They had been taking guitar Skype lessons with Lou for a few months already, so they already knew each other and had means of contacting Lou. They did so and were met with a confusing, lengthy non-answer, as Guitar Emoji puts it. So Guitar Emoji asks Lou about the allegations and whether or not there's more to the story, and Lou says this. These are the dialogues that DIY vehemently rejects out of fear and anger. No one in DIY is actually going to try and start these conversations out of fear of being called out. No one wants to try to look forward and figure out how to heal. They only want to roll in their pain and anger. I put this out because this is going to keep happening to people, and kids are going to kill themselves because they have been conditioned to believe that their life doesn't matter and that there is no hope for them to get better and a life worth living. I'm sure there are a lot of things that DIY knows that you don't know, probably stuff that I don't know either, since a lot of it comes from third parties. There's nothing I can do to control what they say and how they feel, and I knew that from the get-go putting this out, and just because I put this out, it doesn't mean I'm better. That's not how mental illness works at all, and to chalk it up to just that is insulting to anyone who sustains mental illness, to say that you can just get better. DIY made me who I am and made me feel like I belonged for the first time in my life, and more than anything, I want to save it from itself, so it can thrive healthily and constructively, instead of being a self-policing Ouroboros of saving face. I'm not saying this to convince you of anything, this is genuinely how I feel, and if people are going to make their opinion on this project based on the anger of those who have been living in a black and white reality their whole lives, then so be it. I put every ounce of my being into this with the purpose of doing good. I never had the intention of causing harm to anybody before in my life, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I have hurt people. I can't change any mistakes that I've made, but what I can do is not repeat them and do my best to survive this literal hell that is life. If there's no push for hope, then why the fuck are we still alive? If I'm an abuser, then I'm still a human first. I mean that with every fiber of my being. But DIY doesn't want to humanize people who make mistakes, because then their anger doesn't feel as valid. It's much easier to view someone as evil than as human. After receiving this long-winded response from Lou, Guitar Emoji says, if DIY is truly about being an individual and thinking for yourself, I think I should be able to make my own call, and I can't do that without full disclosure. Lou replies, if that's how you feel, then that's valid. You're more than free to make your own call. I've never asked anyone to defend me or believe me. It's ultimately your choice to believe in something. After receiving this message from Lou, Guitar Emoji felt unsatisfied with their answer, so they reached out to one of Lou's former bandmates, hoping for more discourse. The band member in question remains anonymous, but you can make an educated guess on who it is based on their response to Guitar Emoji. This is the final piece of text we'll be looking at before we start to wrap everything up. This is the most graphic exchange yet, so if stuff like abuse makes you uncomfortable, stop watching now. Hey man, I understand if you don't want to talk about this because it's a subject that tends to make people feel really uncomfortable, but I need some clarity on the situation. In the aftermath of Fail Better, Heal Faster, some new potential information came to light about some of Lou's conduct beyond what they apologized for in the Facebook statement last year, and it's been incredibly disturbing to me. I need to know what, if any, confirmation or information you can offer me about this, because I tried to contact Lou about it directly and was met with a confusing non-answer. Feel free to ignore or tell me to fuck off. What information has come to light? I've been told at the end of the tenure of Panucci's Pizza, Lou sexually assaulted an underage girl who you are/were close to. I'm not asking for names or any further information about the victim, I just need to know if any of this is true. It wasn't at the end of Panucci's, it was actually at the beginning, but I only learned about it before the end. But nevertheless, absolutely true, and the reason I cut ties with Matt in the first place. I'm sure you understand why I never said anything about it publicly. If it weren't so personal and had other people's lives besides Matt's involved, I would have brought it up over 2 years ago. It was with an underage girl, age 15 at the time I believe. Matt was 21 or so, plus or minus a year maybe. Matt sexually assaulted her at the time much more aggressively than in the other known instance with that other person. Of course, at 15 or so, one probably doesn't know how to react, so no one heard about it until I was in a relationship with that same girl a couple years later. As a couple years passed and I found out what happened, I saw up close the trauma that sexual assault inflicts. While it was devastating to see and affected my own relationship at that point, it can only be infinitely more devastating for she who was assaulted. Especially as a young girl, speaking up about this sort of thing is extra trauma that makes it hard to do anything about it. It's so personal and shocking, and when put up against someone like Matt, who is much older and has gravity/fans in this DIY emo scene, or however it's called, makes speaking up about it even more difficult. I'm so sorry to both of you and whoever else they may have abused. I've told a few people about it because if I hadn't, then no one would have ever known about it, but now I'm sort of dusting off my sleeves about it and can approach it more confidently. That brings us to modern day, which is where things get even more interesting. To this day, Lou is still creating music and releasing it on a channel called Fallen Memes Dump. The channel posts old Jank content as well as Lou's work. It has 2 people involved, Lou and someone named Hayden. I'm not including this bit so you can seek out the channel and harass it. I'm including it because of this. I find it interesting that anyone would be willingly involved with Lou and be open about it to the public, because that wouldn't help your reputation, it would tarnish it. And what would that person gain by helping Lou with a YouTube channel? My mouth is left agape as to why someone would risk their reputation in that way, so all we can do is speculate. And I've thought on this for a few days now, and I still can't think of any reason as to why someone would do that. But that's where Lou is at now, just making casual videos with an acoustic guitar, putting out some songs here and there, as well as old Jank footage. I believe it's actually Hayden who uploads the videos, but I'm not 100% on that. Okay, let's wrap things up. Jank was an outstanding rock band that I firmly believe could have had a long-term positive impact on the DIY and emo community. Unfortunately, due to allegations levied toward their singer Lou Diamond, the band had to dissolve. It was a heartbreaking situation for every individual involved. But that leaves a couple questions. Number 1 being, should you still listen to Jank? And number 2 being, how should you feel about the Lou Diamond allegations? There are simple answers to both of those questions. Listen to Jank if you want to, and form your own conclusion about the allegations. My aim is to empower you to make those decisions yourself by telling you the story of what happened, because only you can make those decisions for yourself. Some will have you believe that listening to Jank is immoral and you're this and you're that if you still enjoy their music, and I think that's a great opinion to have, but it's also just an opinion. If you think there's nothing wrong with listening to Jank and jam them every day, that is just as valid. In this scene of music, there's usually an acceptable opinion to have on controversial topics like this, but I'm here to tell you, think for yourself and form your own opinions. And if someone hates on you just because you don't share the same opinion as them, then well, I guess that's just like their opinion, man.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Thank you for watching.
1, 2, 3, 4!